grab a snack or a warm beverage, and get ready to tuck in because we have a lot to discuss. 2023 was a pretty darn good reading year for Adelaide. This year I branched out into a lot of different genres. I spent a surprising amount of time in fantasy, maybe because I was trying to escape my own reality.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I also read a lot of romance, I picked up a lot of memoirs, and of course, I read a lot of literary fiction. In Audre Lorde's year of 2023, I read 64 books, which is by far the most amount of books that I have ever read, so let's just celebrate that for a second.
Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Now, I have done the impossible. I have taken this long list of 64 books and narrowed it down to my very favorite 10. Today, I'm going to walk you through my top 10 favorite books of 2023 so that you can cut through all the BS of bad books and get straight to the good ones. Obviously, I loved all of these books. For each one, I will tell you why you might or might not want to pick them up. Just because I love something doesn't mean that you will too, and that is totally okay. Now, before we dive into the top 10, I'm gonna warm us up with some honorable mentions. These girls are like Ryan Lochte. They're really good, they just got overshadowed by the greats. First up in our honorable mentions list is The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. This is my third reread of this book. It's an oldie, but a goodie. It's about Mia, a high school freshman who desperately wants to fit in, but finds out that she's the princess of a small European country. It's silly, it's heartwarming, and reading it feels like taking a bubble bath. She gets 5 stars from me, but because I have read her like 3 times by now, I just didn't think it was fair to put her in with the other books because I hadn't read any of those before. Next. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is a rom-com about Black love. It deals with heavy topics like invisible disabilities, chronic pain, and addiction, but somehow it never makes you sad for more than a second. Our next honorable mention is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a sci-fi novel about an artificial friend that goes to live with a girl who has a disability. It gets you thinking about climate change, what it means to love, and what it really means to be human. And our last honorable mention is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a coming-of-age memoir about the transformative power of education. It's insanely moving and it tackles tough topics like religious fanaticism, bigotry, and self-invention. And that is it for our honorable mentions. Now on to the good stuff, the moment that you have all been waiting for. I know that you are on the edge of your seat. The suspense is killing you. Drum roll, please. These are my top 10 books of 2023, ranked roughly from least favorite to favorite. At number 10, we have Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is a memoir. It's about an aspiring musician in her mid-20s who puts her career on hold to go take care of her dying mother. It's a coming-of-age story about growing up Asian American and trying to meet a mother's expectations. I loved this because it explores the complexities of mother-daughter relationships, and it also shows the power that food has in connecting people. I would recommend her to you if you have a complicated relationship with your mother, if you know what it's like to lose a loved one, and or if you are the child of an immigrant. I would not recommend her to you if you can't handle sad memoirs about grief and loss because she will break your heart in two. Next up at number 9, we have Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This is contemporary fiction and it's also gay fiction. In this book, a gay woman gets a job as a receptionist at a Catholic church. And when she finds out that the previous receptionist died, she launches an amateur secret investigation into her death. I loved this because it expertly blends warmth, deadpan humor, and existentialism, and because reading her anxious thoughts made me feel very seen. I would recommend her to you if you have anxiety, if you like to read things about what it means to be a human in this big cold world, and if you want a fast-paced read that will make you laugh out loud on every single page. I would not recommend her to you if other people's anxious thoughts make you even more anxious. Also, I wouldn't recommend her to you if you cannot stand self-pitying main characters. Next, we have The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. This is classic literature. It was written in the 1920s. In this book, 4 women who are tired of the men in their lives decide to rent out an Italian castle for the entire month of April. I love this because reading this felt like sitting in a sunny garden and drinking a glass of wine. It's funny, it's witty, it's charming, it's uplifting, and it focuses on the joys and beauty of female friendship. I would recommend her to you if you're looking for a light and happy read that's as much about romantic love as it is about platonic love. I would not recommend her to you if you hate women. Also, if you need your books to have high stakes, because there are literally 0 stakes in this book. Reading her is kind of like listening to a bunch of women chat at a garden party. Coming in hot at number 7 is Milkbed by Melissa Broder. This is literary fiction, contemporary fiction, gay fiction. This is about a woman with a restrictive eating disorder who befriends a woman who works at a yogurt shop and is intent upon feeding her. As they grow closer together, they struggle against their desires. I loved this because I read this at just the right time in my life. It perfectly captures what it's like to suffer from and to recover from a restrictive eating disorder. I also love this book because it's a book about desire in all its forms. A desire for food, love, sex, acceptance, spirituality, you name it, and the messy ways that those desires intersect. I would recommend her to you if you want a funny yet poignant story about self-acceptance, queer love, and spiritual longing. I would not recommend this to you if you are sensitive about reading about disordered eating. It's powerful for that very reason, but don't pick it up if you're not ready for it. There is no shame in that. Coming in at number 6, we have got The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is about a war orphan who discovers she possesses a rare and dangerous power. And when her country goes to war, she has to decide whether or not she's going to use that power to protect her people, even if it comes at the cost of her own humanity. I love this because it is fantasy meets historical fiction. It pulls from East Asian history to comment on issues like institutionalized racism, the horrors of war, and the oppression of poor minorities. I would recommend this to you if you like Attack on Titan, philosophies like existentialism, absurdism, and nihilism, and action-packed fantasy. Also, if you wish that there was Mulan for adults. I would not recommend her to you if you don't like plot-focused and action-packed novels. Contrary to basically every other book on this list, she will fight you. We are halfway through. How you doing? Hope you're doing fine. For every single one of these next 5 books, I gave them all 5 stars. These are top tier favorite books. They're really neck and neck, but I put them roughly in order of which ones I liked least to best. At number 5, we have got The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. This is literary fiction. This is about the unlikely friendship that blossoms between a housekeeper, her son, and a math professor who can only remember the last 80 minutes of his life. It's a story about what it means to live in the present and the beauty of human connection. I love this book because it shows how people can transcend the limits of language to forge meaningful connections. Kind of like The Good Dinosaur. I would recommend her to you if you like stories about found family, if you like simple and concise writing, and if you want an opportunity to be able to do some literary analysis. I would not recommend her to you if you hate baseball or you hate math. She has a lot of both. Next, at number 4, we have got Push, a novel by Sapphire. This book is literary fiction and gay fiction and a contemporary classic. The movie Precious is based off of this book right here. She is about an illiterate 16-year-old from a very bad family background that learns how to read and write, and in doing so, she learns how to take back control of her life and break free from the cycle of abuse and poverty. I loved this because it is a gut-wrenching and uplifting story of self-discovery. The connection between literacy and finding your voice is very clever, and it has an unforgettable narrative voice. I would recommend her to you if you're interested in reading a book about literacy, the education of historically marginalized people, and self-empowerment. I would not recommend her to you if you're sensitive to stories about fat phobia, homophobia, physical abuse, sexual abuse, incest, and pedophilia. Please, please, please look up trigger warnings and take good care of yourself. Not every book is meant for every person. Coming in at number 3 is The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. This, too, is literary fiction, a contemporary classic, and gay fiction. You're probably sensing a theme here. This is based off of a true story from the author's life. It's about a young woman who falls in love with an older married woman in 1940s America. I love this because this is the OG lesbian novel. Every sentence carries 2 meanings, and the main characters are rendered in painstaking, full color, high definition detail. I would recommend her to you if you want a romance novel that dives into the complexities of romantic love and obsession between women. Also, if you like books with a lot of symbolism. I would not recommend her to you if you only like romance novels that are uplifting and funny and easy to read, because she will rip your heart out and put it on ice. My second favorite book of 2023 is technically 2 books. They're a duology, but they're both only like 100 pages each, and they're really meant to be read together. So I count them as just 1 book, and a lot of other people count them as just 1 book too. And those 2 books are A Psalm for the Wild Bull and A Prayer for the Crowned Shy. This is a cozy sci-fi story. This is a duology about a monk and a robot who travel around the world trying to answer the question, what do humans want? This is a story about how we find a sense of meaning and purpose and fulfillment in a world that seems so out of our control. I loved this book because it was uplifting, it was funny, and it was insightful. And also, it helped ease my anxiety about the fact that my very existence perpetuates climate change and the harms of capitalism. I would recommend her to you if you like heartwarming and cozy books, and if you need reassurance that in this big, scary world, you're doing okay. I would not recommend her to you if you need answers to big questions. She will get you thinking, but she won't tell you what to think. We made it to the end. This is the very last book and my favorite book of 2023. Do we need a second drum roll? I think we do. My favorite book of 2023, hands down, 100% was The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is literary fiction, a contemporary classic, and kind of historical fiction too. This book is set in the summer of 1968, where a long-standing butler from a famous British mansion goes on a road trip across the English countryside to visit an old friend. Along the way, he reflects on topics like the dying aristocracy, the nuances of class in post-World War II society, regret, and fascism. I loved this because it expertly blends the personal and historical. You think you're just reading a story about a butler until the very end, when you realize it is so much bigger than that. I would recommend her to you if you would like to read a character-driven novel that's reflective, emotional, and critical of the British Empire. I would not recommend her to you if you read for the plot, because in true Ishiguro form, she is all vibes, no plot. And there we have it, folks. We did it. We wrapped up this reading year. Have you read any of these books? If so, what did you think about them? Do you disagree with any of my opinions? And most importantly, what were your favorite books of 2023? As always, I hope that you take good care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.